go, guys. I see Israel. I see DJ. I see Robbie, Scott, Elena. Wow. Everybody. Greetings.
Oh, good to see you guys. Yeah, a lot of talk about the winter storm weather. It is going to be a doozy. We're going to talk about that some too.
Yeah, and you know what happened, guys, was a couple of things. We normally would be on with Wayne. Please send prayers Wayne's way as they're having issues. They woke up to a ruptured, broken hot water heater, which is not a good thing. Maybe frozen pipelines. You know, again, he's in the Missouri. He's up north of us. Hey, JW, good to see ya. And Regina, Lala VA girl, good to see you. You felt it. Okay, that's what I was wondering. How many people felt the Salt Lake City earthquake? Yeah, there's a lot coming, guys. I shared with you guys in the past, I had a series of visions, very vivid. I wrote them down. I've even recently showed you my bedtime journal entry, multiple entries that all seem to come around the same time, 8 years ago. So on January 27th, 2018, I had a dream of an 8.3 in what they called Seattle. I know it was the Washington area. So that really hit me. It was so vivid. I was like watching the news, and then I believe it was April 18th, of 2018, then I had a dream that was even more vivid, and it was that San Andreas had gone, and California was really hit with the big one. And literally, it was that scenario where, there is a scenario where Los Angeles could end up farther north than San Francisco. I kid you not. This is something that scientists have theorized. It was like half of LA was wrecked. The other half was actually okay. But the western half, closer to the shoreline, was devastated. And in this dream, they were just giving a lot of an account of different celebrities, like saying which celebrities they knew were okay and which ones weren't, famous people. And it was so vivid. And so that was 8 years ago, too. That was in April. So, it's always stick vividly in my mind. And then Cindy had one, I don't know, about 5 years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, where she saw Bing Bang Boom. She saw, Cascadia, San Andreas, and New Madrid all going off. I think the chances are pretty high that we're pretty close to that time period. I also think we could escape the whole thing if we can shift consciousness and awaken enough people.
Yeah, it looks like some people felt it. Some people did not. Very interesting. Those that didn't feel it. Some were really close, and I don't know how far away the others were that did feel it. But isn't that interesting? I mean, it's such a strange place to have that kind of shaking there. Definitely a lot going on the planet. I know when I had my dream, I saw these houses. They just fell right off their blocks, and there was no doubt in my mind that it was all three of them that were going off and doing a thing, and everyone was actually working together quite nicely, trying to help one another get home, because for whatever reason the airlines were not working, and maybe the runways were all broken up. I don't know, and people were mapping ways to get across the country to help other people get home. It was really quite an effort, people working together. So that was the encouraging part of the dream anyhow.
It's well known that dreams can be messages from your guides and from your higher self. And so that's why it's really important to write them down if you can. So many of my dreams, I'll wake up in the morning and just say, well, that was a processing dream. Maybe it's back in school, I'm late for class, that type of thing. Or maybe I'm back in a job that I couldn't stand, that type of thing, where you're working out things, or in a relationship where it was traumatic. And then there's the dreams that really stick out, that they're just like, foreshadowing or forewarning. They're like timeline potential trigger, a big alert type thing coming from the higher self and from your guides. And again, having a journal right by your bedside. As soon as you wake up, just write down your impressions. And I think that could trigger you. Then if you go back in the morning and meditate on it, you could get more details.
Right. And a lot going on with this winter storm. Be ready. I know one trick someone told me about is make sure you fill up your bathtub so you have a way to flush the toilets, if you don't have any water, but then of course let the water drip. Be ready, have extra blankets, make sure your generator is kind of ready to go and all the things. So I would look up online like a checklist of stuff to get ready for a storm like this and just sort of go down the checklist, because it's really hard to remember everything on your own.
Yeah. And it's wild how things feel right now. Everybody senses we are in the most pivotal time in our history, perhaps the most pivotal time in thousands of years, literally thousands. Great to see you, Christine. Great to see Send Havoc in the house and welcome everybody. Curian Vibes, brother, and I hope that it's warmer up there. Again, he is probably the most northern person in our chat room, and I couldn't do it living that far north. Though, man, it is beautiful up there in northern Sweden.
I know.
I mean, I should say Norway. Sorry about that.
Before we came on, Mike had a whole bunch of stuff up, and I don't know if he has the stuff with Trump that was up, but there's some hilarious stuff going on. Oh, thank you so much, Koma Kaniko. Aw, thank you. We really appreciate that. We had a lot of fun stuff with Trump that was up, a lot of laughing, a lot of things that are going on. We don't know of how much of it is dubbed or not, but it was funny. It was funny. Things that were being said and thrown around up there. So a lot of changes. Like I say, a lot of sacred cows are getting slain lately, and there's some that are not very happy with it, and it makes me wonder, are we being set up to get hit?
Yeah, well, Trump is letting loose, and I did 2 videos, and sorry guys, because they did it to me again. Do you want me to tell you what they did to me? Right when I was going to click go live, they just closed out my browser. They closed my whole browser out. This is the second time that's happened. Immediately before a live. So I know this is the dark shadow government that's doing this. It's absolutely the case, again. But the light's just showing them for what they are. And we did 2 videos. One hasn't aired yet. It'll be on Evolutionary around 5 o'clock tonight. It's a short one, but I think it's very important. And the other one's on Evolutionary as well. We did this morning. If you really pay attention to what's coming out in Davos, I just think that it's like they're going to feel like they're backed into a corner, and they're going to have no choice in their mind but to hit us with something big. And, again, thank you, Koma. We appreciate you very much, brother, for all your support. All you guys, we love you guys and appreciate you. There's Frankie, the big blue pup. Good to see you. Skydra, Deanna, great to see you. Yes, lots of tech malfunctioning lately. Well, thank you. It is a compliment because they know we've been right on this the entire time. And we had the option to do what everybody in the political system that's made it very high up, or the celebrities in Hollywood, have decided to do and join the system, but we said no. And, the system did offer, they said, everything would be taken care of. You'll never want for anything. So, put a Les Paul out in front of me, an actual Gibson Les Paul. Nope, can't take it. It's okay. I'd rather have a clean mind and heart and know that we've done our best to help others, and that's what we're all about. Who needs the who? Robbie says nobody does. Earthquake down in Louisiana last night. Mission Control. Yeah, the ones that you're talking about. That's an interesting area. We'll take a look at, because that feels to me like it's underground, deep underground military bases. When I woke up, we were over 400 quakes. It's going down. It's been elevated. By the way, over here, 6.2 in Russia. If I switch this, so we look at the significance. Let's look at the last 7 days. We had this one. This is right on the right wing of the diamond. This diamond is what Ryo Tatsuki had called out for having the big one. But I think she was seeing it happen over here on the left wing of the diamond, right by Taiwan. And our dear brother David Dubine, again, he's got some family over there, and we don't want to see anything happen to anybody anywhere. As far as the earth changes, they are coming though. They are absolutely coming. Are they delayed? I think they might be a little delayed, just to give us more time to be ready. Here you go. This was a 6.0. This was within the last week. Again, this is right in the Cascadian area. And then look what we got over here. This is that 4.7. They're calling it 40 kilometers south of Evanston, Wyoming. You can see where it is. It's to the east of Salt Lake City. And it's so weird because we have so many family members clustered around Salt Lake and all. Elko, that was one of Cindy's stomps. Cindy lived in Elko. She knows that area very well as Idaho. Again, we have family there too. Don't forget, we had this one down here, which originally was over 5, and they downgraded it to 4.9. None of the ones in Louisiana are that big, but if we look at 30 days and we zoom in, I feel this is expanding the base, deep underground military bases, 5 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and 9.5. It is a fracking area too, but when you look up what's north of it, right here, this is Barksdale Air Force Base. Cindy and I have seen numerous stealth bombers over in this area. We filmed them over here. No, everybody knows they're there. There's military nuclear bombers here at Barksdale. This, we at one point in time, we pretty much lived right here at the Louisiana Army Ammunition Plant. Yeah, this is, it's a storage facility for a lot of weapons. Some of them date back to the Second World War. So, I don't doubt that there's also military bases somewhere down under here as well. Another place where you see this type of activity a lot is by my old stomping grounds close to Fort Jackson. I actually worked with soldiers from Fort Jackson in a paranormal research group. I had a blast. They were great guys until most of them got shipped out to Germany, to Ramstein. And but they were great guys, and we had a lot of fun investigating. This is at 4.1 kilometers depth. You'll find them over here on a regular basis, and again, I think that's another sign of deep underground military base expansion.
Right. Definitely a lot going on, you guys. And Sin Havoc, what do you think about what's going on happening in Greenland? That's really, really big. Thank you so much, Carrie and Vibes. We appreciate that. Thank you. Let me answer that, and let me talk with Sin Havoc first. So what's going on down in Greenland, it's something that we cannot see. I do think it's very secret, but it's very important. I don't think the leaders are playing around. I think something is going to happen. So we'll have to, when I was watching Trump make his statements, I suddenly saw that he was not just making statements to the human people, that there was a much bigger energy involved. And then I made a channeling on that. So that's pretty significant what's going on. It's about to change our world. And Carrie and Vibe says, did you see the Polish dude talk about a big earthquake coming in India? I have so much respect and love for you too. Aw, thank you. Mike did. I'm going to let Mike comment on that one. And thank you.
Yeah, one of the, usually in the morning, like with earthquake coffee.
Earthquake coffee.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have my coffee and I listen to, first thing I do is check out USGS. That's the very first thing I do every single day. And then when I go deeper in, I always watch the Polish Psychic at about 2.5, 3 times speed. Trying to, again, store as much as I could get from him because I do have faith in him. I think he's very good. And he's kind of a bridge between Cindy and I, because Cindy, she gets what she gets, but she has some sort of higher self block towards the military side of things. Now, on my side, my family's all career military on my mom's side. So, I even gave brief consideration to that. And I almost would have succumbed to peer pressure from my best friend, who ended up going into the Navy. He got mad at me because I didn't go in the Navy. He did. He spent 20 years in there. Then he went on to work for the feds and even work for that dreaded IRS. Yes, I know. We're not friends now, and there's nothing we have in common. No ill will, but sometimes people grow apart. They just simply grow apart. But anyway, the Polish Psychic was picking up, and he was saying it's India or a nation similar to India. So it could have been Pakistan. It could have been, Bangladesh. Absolutely. It could have been too. We'll have to keep an eye out and see. But he said it felt like this, that there was, and he described this as the worst one we've seen in our lifetimes. So, I mean, something very, very big. I would lay money on the fact that there will be a great quake, 8 and beyond this year. And I would bet that it would be before we get to summer solstice. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 2 or 3 great quakes before we get to summer solstice. The guide said that my timing was off when I was thinking about the great quakes coming, but they also gave me indications that I saw things accurately, just I was off, I think, a few years. But, again, timelines are not set in stone. And every single one of us, our consciousness is affecting these timelines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there's just so much going on, and there's some things going on that we definitely cannot see, but I can feel them out there. So there's a certain audience that's watching, and it's important. What we do and what we say is very important to show if we can or cannot lead as a higher octave, I guess is what I'm saying. It's hard for me to put it in 3D because that's where most all the energy is at. It's right here in the 3D, but I'm trying to bridge everything that I see that's beyond the 3D, and sometimes I'm short with words on that. I do my best, but it's really important that we show that we can be higher, we can be better, we can operate from a higher influence.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have a 6.2. This is the last month, the ones that they deem significant. 6.2 Peru, 6.5 around Mexico, and then we have this big 6.0 off of Oregon. Then over here, we have a 6.6 around Taiwan, a 6.0 around Taiwan, 6.4 Indonesia, 6.4 Philippines. Kind of balancing out the energies on both sides of the plate. Where does it look like, you would expect there to be some activity, maybe more over into Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand. Maybe, again, Alaska over into Kamchatka or Japan itself. When you look at India here, yeah, big energy here can move this way, can move towards what he was seeing. It wasn't too long ago we had the big one in Thailand too, and that was just, looking at the building shaking and leaning. Holy cow, I don't want to be in a big city when that happens. That's, more terrifying. Here we just have we live in a large single wide. So yeah, we're in a manufactured home. If it caved in on us, it probably wouldn't even squish us. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been reporting like buzzing in their feet, just constant buzzing in their feet. And I've noticed a lot of sensitives, they're really feeling things. And I don't think this is entirely natural. I think a lot of things that are going on in the earth are aggravations, not necessarily things that are just naturally happening.
No, and just remember everything that we've seen just in the last few weeks. So I had different articles pegged, but again, right before we went live, they shut everything off. They closed my browser on me. But I'm going to just read you some of the headlines from the watchers. Intense rainfall, gale force winds hit Greece, causing deadly flooding. Yeah, massive flooding. It's not just Greece, it's many different areas. We can see Tunisia, heaviest rain in 70 years. And then we have large record-breaking rainfall left a lot of people dead and missing in New Zealand. It's just everywhere we look. What's happening? I think that David Adapt 2030 has been right in that, and this is something I felt instinctively too. I'm not worried about global warming. I think the trend is going to be kind of the opposite. There's extremes, but I think we're going to have more deadly, dangerous cooling events. That scares me a lot more, honestly. And, when you look at what would impact growing zones and impact our ability to grow enough food to support everybody, yeah, when it cools off, it's worse than when it heats up. Absolutely. So, yeah, 9.75 inches in a day. That's the record ever. Everywhere we look, we're seeing what is obviously signs of a mudflood type event. And then we have what's coming with this mega storm. Now, it's moving up, but yeah, absolutely. Everywhere from just a little bit east of Dallas all the way, to south of Nashville. This area, you really got to watch out because it's going to be a horrible ice storm. And, that caused me yesterday to just run out, get some gas for the generator. We still have to change out the gas, and we have some old gas in the generator we got to get rid of and get ready because, you really could be without power for quite a long time. And when you're looking north, like where our brother, Wayne is, well, he's a little bit above the main area of focus. But, it's going to be a massive, massive snowstorm. It seems like it will be. I think the ice will be the most deadliest thing. But, this is just going to keep moving across the country. And in fact, better than half the people in the country are facing extreme weather events. As you can see here, this is the 23rd through Monday the 26th. Yeah, this is a lot of people. Again, some of the most heavily populated parts of the country.
Mm-hmm. Been checking on family members up that way, and I can't help. I worry about everyone. It's that mom energy that you just worry about family members. You can't help it, but it's definitely a time to be ready, not a time to mess around, because with the ice, the way that it was explained to me that the ice, when it comes onto the power lines, it can very easily snap those power lines, and then you have ice all over the roads, which makes it very difficult for them to come in and fix, let alone they're working in really, really cold, icy weather. So you may have to be ready for a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Diana says they're chopping firewood and getting generator ready in Asheville. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody that's in this whole swath should be doing what you can. That's one of the biggest things that I wish we had was some sort of wood burning stove. Need to look into that and see what we could do, because that would be a great thing to have, a wood burning stove.
Yeah, it would be. I'm not sure exactly where we would put it in here, but it's yeah, it would be something at least nice to have in case we had to make room.
So as you can see, 50 to 80% chance for very, very big impact across so many areas. Again, Carolinas, Tennessee, up into Virginia, West Virginia as well. Definitely Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, the northern parts primarily. This storm, kind of the whole focus of the track was shifting a little bit more northerly. We follow Max Velocity, enjoy his energy, and he's very thorough. So, I mean, when you see everything that's going on, it's just insane, the changes. And the other thing that I really wanted to talk about too was, and I had so many good things pulled up, but we're going to go over some of them. This is a 15th century portrayal of Kublai Khan, his wife and eldest son. Wait a minute. First off, look at the garb. It's interesting garb. It feels, again, pretty exotic. But, I mean, the main thing people would take from this is, wait a minute, he doesn't appear to be somebody from the Mongoloid, quote-unquote, race. And, we never want to offend anybody. We're all mutts. We have to get that through ourselves. We are all mixtures of many different, not just races, but, again, we come from different planetary systems. This Earth is a real planet of refugees when you look at it on the bigger scale. The other thing you might not notice at first is they're big. Or is it just they're sitting on the elevated side of the table? No, I would venture to say that they're trying to say that they're giants. Wouldn't you think so?
They look kind of on the big side to me.
They look very big. And, again, we have legends of giants all over the world. The other thing is, okay, so wait a minute. He looks very, I mean, if you told me he was Anglo-Saxon, you might believe it. If you said, again, that he was actually Danish, you might believe it. Again, he looks like he could be of what we call Viking lineage, Nordic lineage, Slavic lineage. He could be of so many different lineages. But this is Kublai Khan? Is this really what Kublai Khan looked like? This is the fascinating thing. When we look to Genghis Khan, the claim that Genghis Khan had red hair is based primarily on accounts from the 14th century Persian historian Rashid al-Din, who described him as tall, long-bearded, red-haired, and green-eyed. Now, it says, however, these descriptions are considered artistic or legendary interpretations, not verified historical facts. Well, there are historical facts that we have found red-haired. We've found red-haired giants in a lot of areas. And one video that got pulled right away from us was the red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave. That got pulled right away. They actually gave me a strike that they rescinded thereafter. Mm-hmm. It was kind of crazy. It was such a knee-jerk reaction. But yeah, we've found bodies in actually similar garb in a way to this that are very what you might call European, and green eyes or blue eyes, red hair or blonde hair in China, today's China. We've found them.
You know what I find very interesting, and I'm just now kind of putting this together because I can be pretty slow at times. But when we were in the desert, it really seems like that's when everything got hit so hard as far as the channel. And even when we go back to the desert, it seems like everything that we uncover and talk about there gets buried to such a high degree. Now, that land is absolutely magical. There's so many mystical, magical entities and beings that are there, and it's beautiful in its own way. The desert holds many, many mysteries. So, it doesn't surprise me how hard they just kind of cram our heads down when we go to the desert and we try to talk about it and point out the beauty and the mystery in it, because it holds a lot. I think a lot of times maybe people see the desert and it can just be, oh, that's boring. It's really easy to say, oh, that's boring. But when you look closer and you understand those rocks and how that rock is made up and why it's stacked the way it is and the lava flow, and you start to learn about all the things, and you start to learn about all the crystals and the gold and the minerals and the other stones, and how people will buy a piece of land just to mine it, just for so many of the earthly elements that are in there. And yeah, the desert's amazing.
So, this is a big thing, and this article is from 10 years ago, 11 years ago. DNA reveals these red-haired Chinese mummies come from Europe and Asia. Or do they really? I mean, this is what is assumed. Because, we're talking about a nondescript Bronze Age cemetery first discovered by Swedish archaeologists in 1934, rediscovered by the Zhenyang Archaeological Institute in 2000s. They have found the oldest and best preserved mummies in the Tarim Basin area of China. Their skeletal remains, along with unprecedented artifacts, are helping to solve the long-standing question of the origins of human settlement in a politically contested area of China. Contemporary occupants of the Tarim Basin, a geographical area, again, in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of Northwest China. Uyghurs, the Uyghurs. That's interesting because these people have been put in camps. These people have suffered. Okay, they're not going to give me that one, or okay, no, they will. The Uyghur people are just, it's fascinating, again, unto itself. Is this just Silk Road, just traders, making their way in? Or were they all there, again, since the earliest beginnings, whenever that was? What does this really mean? And why again have the Uyghur people been so persecuted? Well, I think you could say that the giants, have been persecuted. And, it was pointed out again by one of our family members that, the Native Americans were kind of the ones that wiped out the last of the giants. And what we see is a cycle of, new haplogroups, new, DNA lineages that come into an area and wipe out the old one. You might just say this is human tendencies. This is some of humanity's dark ways. I don't think so. I think this is just simply more of a tactic again. Look at this one. When they recreate, what the person would look like, okay, they're not going to have too many pictures on it, but you could see from when we were looking at here, they're definitely, not what you would necessarily expect in China. But again, when we talk to Tartaria, I think Tartaria, while it might have ended up at the end being isolated into a smaller area of the Soviet Union / Russia, it was a global civilization. Was it like a breakaway civilization that had gained independence away from the control system and then was brought back under the control system's power? I think that would be my guess.
These are such fun topics. And those who are homeschooling, they're in a position that they can bring this information up and share with their students and give this kind of information a whole nother level of understanding if we have a generation or two of children that are growing up with this knowledge. Because as much as I mean, wouldn't you just feel our natural history that this should just be in all the history books, that the giants and what they wore and what they looked like, and why are there such, why do we have giant swords? Why do we have giant books? And who do we ask these questions to, and get a valid answer? You know, who are the ones who are writing the books, and then we have questions and we ask and we don't get any valid answers. I think we just need to have more pressure through the children, through the generations growing up, maybe.
So, again, we talked about the Siddhika, the legendary tribe in northern Paiute oral tradition, are described as red-haired. They have a certain tendency for barbecue that I wouldn't advise. Barbarians who lived in the Lovelock area of Nevada. According to the legend, these beings referred to as Siddhika, which means tool eaters in the northern Paiute language. They were eventually defeated in a final battle at Lovelock Cave, where they were trapped and killed by fire. The story was documented in 1883 by Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, daughter of a Paiute chief, in her book Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims. Now, she didn't describe them as giants, just barbarians with red hair. But they were described as being 6.5 foot tall, female, and males over 8 feet tall, with, again, red hair. Well, if this guy is, say, 5'5", even when we take into account the angles, maybe they are like 8 foot tall, somewhere in that range. About the same height as what you would expect as being described. Again, I find this is some of my favorite stuff. Now, a study at the University of Nevada concluded they were of normal height, around 6 feet. Well, again, maybe slightly over normal. I don't trust the studies, because we know they were funded by the system. And we have no remains right now. Well, that's because the system came in and took them away and destroyed them. This is so well known that so much of this was called in. Eventually it found its way into the Smithsonian. And then the Smithsonian sent out people to investigate, but it was more like a cleanup crew, in my opinion. This is just for entertainment value. This is just my opinion.
Yes, just purely for entertainment value only. That's what we do here. So, Lolive Girl says, that these Mormons didn't build the temples. No. They were there already. I know. Those are just points that I think we need to just keep bringing up over and over and over until we get some answers. Right now, the ball is in their court, but apparently they don't know it, or they don't feel it, to give us answers. And I think Diana said something funny. She says, blue-green eyes here, not a giant. I mean, wouldn't it be funny if you're sitting in school and they're doing roll call and, they say, Mike, yes, I'm a giant. Cindy, nope, not a giant. If we had to say whether or not we were giants. I don't know. That just struck me as funny. I'm not sure why, but a lot of good comments.
Yeah, I just think this is absolutely fascinating. 111 people watching. That's great. It's a blessed number. So again, what are they stressing here? No contemporary portraits or reliable records of Genghis Khan's appearance exist. The only depictions are later artistic renderings, such as his son, Ogadai, which show reddish facial hair, but were created long after his death. The myth of red hair may have been amplified by internet folklore. Yeah, again, there's something going on here. There is something going on here that they are seriously covering up. Look at these mini globes. Wow, that says Tartaria loud and clear. Boy, that's cool, isn't it? And, it's got the signs of the zodiac around it. boy, you find something old like this and at a little flea market or what have you, a tag sale, it's like, oh yeah, you got yourself a treasure. Tartaria, yeah, it did exist, but what was the truth of Tartaria? This map in 1570 again shows Tartaria in North America. Whoa, here. Yeah, here. Again, what's the truth? I think, as you see, Magnus Chum, Magnus is great. MAGA. I think there's so much right in front of our faces all the time. How about the MAGA movement? Make America great again. Right. But is MAGA really something about Tartaria? I mean, is this, are they really talking about how this breakaway civilization, which may be the same thing that people have the concept of the 1,000 years reign of Christ. Again, Christ christened, that's all about the pineal gland. That's all about consciousness. That's about us having our full potential. And also about us cultivating peace and having a peaceful civilization, not like we see all the time. Yeah, what's the real history here? And what's really going on with, say, Trump and everything right now? The empire erased from the maps, Tartaria. And then we have this, right? And people have made all sorts of different guesses on this land up there at the North Pole. What's really going on? And the Black Rock, well, Black Rock, Trump Tower, Black Rock, gobbling up real estate, but Trump just told, Black Rock and Vanguard, you're not buying any more single-family homes in the U.S. for investment. Oh, ooh, that sounds like a declaration of war.
I know, right? Yeah, I think I like that idea, Claudette. Maybe a huge group in peace needs to show up at the Smithsonian and ask for truths of our recent past. Maybe it's going to take something like that. I don't know. Is there already someone to contact for that? Is that like a resource we could tap into? Who at the Smithsonian would we contact to ask these questions? See, that's what I want to know. I want to know the contact. Who do we contact? Who makes up all of these things? Who decides what our history is? And are they even accountable for finding a deeper truth? Or do they just write down the history, something to make up, and then run and hide for the rest of their lives underground so we can never ask them for more truths? I think it's a good idea. I think some people need to be held a little bit accountable for keeping us in the dark. It just doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't, and so many of you guys, the whole thing with the Mormon church and the way it spread was really just fascinating because it was kind of like modern day visitations like we had really with the ancient days with Moses and Abraham. It kind of feels like the same sort of thing happening, getting guided by these Pleiadian-looking beings and angels. Are they angels? Are they Pleiadians? Are they fallen Pleiadians? Are they fallen angels? And guided. This is a great point you guys are bringing up. Guided to these places in Utah, for instance, and not just Utah, where the cities were empty. But there were cities there. There were homes there. You could move right in. Just move right in. Make yourself at home. The former owners, well, they're not here anymore, but their homes are.
Mm-hmm. We had a family that my great-grandmother made the trip on wagon train out that way to the Mormons. I was baptized Mormon when I was little, but, of course I don't practice now, but my parents felt that was the right thing to do because I have such a strong lineage in Mormon in my family, but I don't know. It's just also interesting. And why were people drawn there? Why were they told to go there? It's interesting. And I think there's a lot more to the story.
Yeah. The drink, a white Russian, isn't that interesting? Just again, what's really going on? 100 compelling reasons to consider the Mongols as Russians. And this has a lot. I mean, this would be a whole live or a series of lives. But when you start looking at this, you get the feeling, like it's not even close to what the history that we've been given is. When you look again to those beings again that came out of the north, and we have these legends of Agartha, Shambhala, Shangri-La. We have Mount Meru. Yeah, everything that we're talking about here. There was another map making its rounds where they were transposing this on Greenland and saying, is this really why Trump wants it? Because is Greenland really a land of portals? It certainly isn't green. I mean, right off the bat, why would you call Greenland when, and Iceland? Because Iceland is not ice covered. It's sitting out there in the Gulf Stream. And, Greenland is almost entirely ice covered. If it changed that quickly, because again, if they really were naming this that for like 500 years ago or so, how did it change so quickly, so fast? And then you get people coming to the ice wall, and that's just fascinating in and of itself, because we get that that's more of a dimensional barrier, but it is kind of real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on there that we're not told, and Barbara said there's a lot of cultism I think in religions in general. I don't like to knock anyone's belief, not at all, but my grandmother, that's why my grandmother quit. She felt, she realized that, so she stepped out. And I've been all over the religious map. I study everything because I want all the good knowledge, everything from Hinduism, Buddhism, all the isms. Not that I need to be one of them. That wasn't it. I just want to know all the ways, because there is something good in all of them. If that's what you're looking for those golden nuggets in them all. That's what I look for. And then I've kind of taken all the good things out of each one, and I've made my own, like Cindy's way. It's Cindy's way, it's Cindy's thing. But there's so much out there that we're just not being told, and there's so much evidence of it now, which is good. I just wish more of it would make it into the history books.
Yeah, so, Admiral Richard E. Byrd talking about the ice barrier all the way back in 1927. Yeah, there is what looks to be an ice wall, but then there's more past that. And in fact, we're just in one particular realm. I guess realm is maybe the best way to put it. Realm, reality. And there's others on the planet too. There's a lot more to the planet that we haven't seen than what we have seen.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
Yeah, a lot more. I mean, it's fascinating. And they tried to ridicule Admiral Byrd too, but man, he is maybe his eyes might have seen more than just about anybody's eyes when you think about it with his adventures. He's seen a lot. He saw, again, I believe he did see the flying saucers that the NAZIs had constructed from Antarctica. When we're talking about these legends, where did again the white race really come from? They say the Caucasian mountains, but then we also get this impression of some sort of lands to the far north, beyond the ice and snow, where it actually gets nice again and warm, perhaps even tropical. How much of our weather is really just controlled by ultra-terrestrials? When we see like the type of event that we see where the polar vortex weakens, and we get these excursions of the extreme cold air, which comes down, and it's horrible for anything that's growing and can cause so much havoc and disruption. Is it simply technology that can cause these events? And if so, is it very, very easy for them to reset us through what appears to be natural means?
Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit suspicious.
Thank you, Frankie Big Blue Puppy. We appreciate you and your support as always.
Thank you so much, Frankie. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating when you go down these roads. And then we see this too. This right here is in St. Petersburg. Now this is St. Petersburg, Russia. There is also a St. Petersburg in Florida. Is there any real connection between the one in Florida and the one in Russia? Well, if Tartaria extended all the way down, throughout North America, perhaps there is. But why do we see this all the time? Look at how this massive building is. You see a building in the past here, and just past it. But look at this. There's so much nothing, and you have this gigantic building. It's so big and grand, and again, it's big enough that 20-foot tall giants could walk right through those doors if they had to. Why is this like this? Because we see this time and time again. Streets that are enormous, it appears. Later on, they become much more filled in with other buildings. But we always see these interesting spires. We see just amazing, detailed architecture, often of angelic type beings and godlike beings. It just feels so off.
I look at these things and sometimes I feel, could it have been frequency that actually vibrated them together? Or maybe they put a big wall of stone up and then they manipulate that somehow in the frequency? Because if you vibrate something like sand at a certain frequency, you see really beautiful, something that looks like snowflakes or different types of stars, different types of things. And why wouldn't they be able to put a big block of stone or something and manipulate that, make it kind of pliable, and then vibrate something into it? Maybe not that one specifically, but I feel they can do that. I mean, that's amazing. Look at that.
Look at that. And look at the spires.
That just comes from something, I don't know. I don't think we understand how that can be made.
Well, there is the thought that this was constructed by freemen that literally were living in a system that didn't have taxes. It didn't have money like we do. It just simply was more of a you get paid what you're worth type of reality. So here is something else that we've gotten that, originally when you think about Freemasons and Freemasonry, the original intention was not dark or evil. It was actually taken over by the system. The system actually at first was very, very much pitted against the Freemasons and that society, because what they did was, they worked outside of any constraints of a monetary system like we have today. They supported each other, and people would be learning trades and learning skills, and they would literally be taken care of. You would have food and lodging. Now, as you became a more valued citizen with more skills and more knowledge and things to offer the civilization as a whole, you would be gifted more and more. Better lodging, better food, better things. And so you would rise up through the system as you helped others and as you helped the entirety of the system truly help others. So some believe that these buildings were built totally by freemen that were able to work at a pace where they could take their time. They could take all the time in the world putting these things together. And they didn't have to work within budgetary constraints because we didn't have a monetary system like we do now.
Mm-hmm. What if everyone did do what they truly loved to do? What if you were able to do what you were really, really good at doing? It was my understanding with the indigenous children, they were watched, and they were watched as they would play. and they would be picked out by their gifts. Maybe little Joey was really good at hunting. Maybe Johnny was good at tracking. Maybe Susie was good at hunting and tracking. And they would take them and they would train them for a lifetime to do these things. And then you have these absolute specialists, and it's because they love it and not because they have to do it, which makes you wonder if we were in a position where if we didn't have to ask the question, how am I going to make money? What exactly would you do? I don't think we've been able to explore that a whole lot in our lives because we've always been busy on that rat wheel.
No, and again, I'm kind of like, I guess, an average size guy, and I can't imagine lifting this, even though I've lifted a ton of weights in my day. Who could possibly literally wield swords this big? And if they were always just meant to be just, I don't know, for display and not real, why? I mean, why? Look at those things. Look at the size of them. It's got to be over 8 foot long, that one in the middle.
Rosemary, it must be a white witch from past lives. Rosemary, you are amazing and incredible at everything. I know, because you work with all the plants and all the things, and you medicine woman, you. Yeah, I mean, these swords, why would you make them for just decoration purposes only? I don't know.
How about this article? 7.5 foot long sword from 4th century Japan may have protected deceased from evil spirits. Archaeologists have unearthed an oversized ceremonial iron sword and bronze mirror shaped like a shield from a 1600-year-old burial mound in Nara, Japan. Yeah, this is just, why? It's just for display? I mean, or were there really giants that could literally, wield something like this? I think that's the case. There were giants that could wield it. Look at this one. The Norimitsu Odachi is a huge sword from Japan, so large that it was said to be wielded by a giant. Maybe it was. That's a pretty simple answer. Maybe it was. I mean, holy cow, that's got to be 10 foot long.
I know. What do you guys think about that? That's pretty wild. Do they just make it for entertainment and so people can just walk up and look at it? Or, I mean, to me, it looks like it was made with purpose, with precision to be actually used. So I think this stuff is just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you guys, but I met Andre the Giant, and, I mean, he was a big guy. He was big. Actually, I met him. I met Hulk Hogan and a whole bunch of the wrestlers way back at one of the original WrestleManias back in the day. And we actually got to hang out with them because I was working for a company that took care of all their automobiles, all their cars. So, yeah, it was curious. And to see somebody that was legitimately 7'5", 7'6", and big, because he was wide. But still, even with his size, he couldn't wield that. So how big are you talking? You got to be talking somebody that would be what I would say is good size Anunnaki, like 12 feet plus.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the length of an average samurai sword, at under 4 feet, yeah, and if we're like 6 foot tall wielding that, or 5.5, yeah, this person must have been at least 12 foot tall, I would think.
Yeah, and Jen says, or Jack and the Beanstalk, all of that had to come from somewhere. You're right. And, growing up, and there's some other very, who is that guy with the ox? I forgot that he was Bunyan? Paul Bunyan with the ox. I know. Where did those stories come from? Good question.
Well, Paul Bunyan is kind of, I mean, I think it's thought to have some reality to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? Didn't he work on the railroads too? They made it out. He had to do some really important work to do something. I don't remember. I just remember little teeny tiny tidbits right now from when I was little watching cartoons. But yeah, there was that story with Paul Bunyan, and he did some, I don't know, he saved a town or something. So
Something
very
like that.
interesting. Very, can't find it right now, but I guess now we're going to have to find it another time and do a video on it, because of course there's more behind it than what we think, I feel.
Oh, there's endless things to talk about when we're talking about giants. I mean, there's so much out there. Here you go. This is a giant to be, a little 7-day-old baby elephant. How cute. And I guess when we really think about it, we can learn so much from the animals. We really, really can learn from nature. This is why we've been so disconnected from that side of things. Again, with the Abrahamic tradition, the lack of divine mother, it's always talk to your father and not talk to your mother. The mother is the softer, gentler side of things. It's the nurturing, cultivating. If we want to get away from our warlike ways, then we got to pay attention to the divine feminine more. Bring some balance to this world.
I think it's the balance. It's having both. We can't really get here without both feminine and the masculine, and pull all of that together. And I think we really just need to keep working on ourselves and looking at ourselves and going within and figuring out, okay, what can I do today to be a little bit better person than I was yesterday, whether that be health, whether that be attitude, whether that be, helping your neighbor, just always trying to kind of one up yourself, not other people.
Yes, absolutely. So Cindy's going to do some dings for us. And as always, we want to thank you guys for your support. Please make sure to thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed to all 3 channels. Again, we couldn't do it without you guys.
So I want to say huge thank you to Miss Sandy, Koma Kaniko, Kyrian Vibes, Frankie. You guys really helped made this video possible today, and you help keep us going so we can do this, bring this content to you and bring you this positive energy, and create this space where we can all get together and just kind of help each other feel better. So you know how to do it. Find a happy thought in your mind. Very, very important, because what you think you're going to become and you're going to do. So we need the happy vibes. So let's also not forget everyone who's kind of in the way of that storm, that they all are okay. So here we go. As always, you guys are awesome, wonderful, amazing. Thank you for coming. There is no us without you, and we are grateful. Source bless and namaste.
Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be blessed, happy, and free, and may my thoughts, words, actions, and my deeds help to bring that about. And this is just such a blessing to be with you guys. Stay safe out there. If anything major happens, of course, we'll be live as soon as possible, unless the technology is down. Namaste.
Namaste.